Welcome to week 12 of our course. This week we'll be talking about speech and language disorders. So speech and language disorders are not the same. So some common language problems can include difficulty understanding, difficulty talking, difficulty reading, difficulty writing. And some speech problems include inability to make sounds clearly, having a raspy voice, or stuttering. A famous person who has a speech disorder would be King George VI. And there was a film that came out called The King's Speech back in 2010 that went over his life and his rise to fame. He actually never was supposed to become king. It's a great movie if you haven't seen it, but he did have a stutter, and it talks a lot about how he overcame this and was able to speak publicly. Some types of language disorders that are pretty common would be the preschool language disorders. So these are for kids that are preschool age, which is between 3 and 5 years old, as long as they're not in kindergarten yet. And they may have problems following directions or understanding questions. They may have trouble learning new words or saying sentences. And this is when compared to their peers. So something that just seems like it's a bit delayed when they look or when someone is to observe other kids of the same age. It can also include learning disabilities, which could be reading, writing, and spelling disabilities. And this is a brain disorder. Most children do have this from birth. And a common sign could be when they're having a conversation and they have a really hard time formulating or articulating their thoughts when they're communicating with you. And this would be on a regular basis. And finally, it would be selective mutism. So this happens when kids have a repeated difficulty speaking or seem afraid to communicate in some places or different times. This can continue into teenage years or into adulthood. Some of the common speech and language disorders, specifically speech disorders, include articulation disorders. So that's when there's an unusual production of speech sounds that are being made. Sometimes they put in different pieces of a sound that isn't supposed to be there or leave parts out, something that might interfere with what they're trying to say and make it unintelligible to others. So fluency disorders, this is an interruption in the flow of a person's speech. So if it's at an uncommon rate, rhythm, repetition, or if they're using the wrong syllables or words. And voice disorders. This is an abnormal level or an absence of a vocal pitch volume that seems inappropriate for the person's age. So for this week, one of your discussion posts is about researching someone who's famous who has a speech or language disorder. You are able to do whatever kind of Google search you want. Just make sure that it's reputable, and then you'll be sharing your ideas with our peers in our discussion forum. It's pretty neat to think about some of our the famous people that we know who may have this and how they overcame it. So I look forward to seeing you all on Brightspace, and have a great week.